Welcome. Tonight we journey back nearly 4,000 years to a place both distant and strangely familiar. You may know of Babylon as a name from ancient stories, a gentle unraveling of life under the rule of Hammurabi, a ruler who believed that order could be written in stone, and who carved laws with the weight of a god, a city of wonders, towers, and kings. But beneath its legends, beneath the carved tablets and crumbling ziggurats, was a world where ordinary people lived, worked, and struggled, just like us. And finally, we elves slip into a quieter realm of silk robes and stargazing. The lives of Babylon's elite. Tia's power was stitched not only into law, but into the very heavens. This isn't a story of epic battles or royal conquests. This is a slow walk through sun-baked streets. Over the next 2 hours, we will drift through 4 layers of ancient life. First, we'll step into the sandals of a common bricklayer, to feel the heat, the repetition, and the aching weight of everyday labor. Then, we'll learn about Hammurabi himself. Not the myth, the man and the world he tried to control with chiseled words. We'll peer into the mysteries that still rise from temple ruins, forgotten rituals, sacred staircases, and silent gods. So, make yourself comfortable. Let the past unfold gently around you. Breathe in the dry air of the desert. Feel the dust settle on your skin. And imagine yourself, if only for a moment, in ancient Babylon. Now let us begin. Imagine yourself waking just before the first glow of sunrise, in a narrow, sun-dried brick home. The walls are warm to the touch. Not from any fire, but from the memory of yesterday's sun, still clinging to the clay. There is no glass in the windows, only oiled linen and wooden shutters, and there is no bed. Only a mat of woven reeds and a thin layer of straw. You are a bricklayer, not a skilled artisan, not a temple scribe, just one of hundreds who shape Babylon, one brick at a time. Outside, the city is already murmuring. Chickens peck at dust, donkeys groan. Here brick is life, made of mud, straw, and sweat. It's mixed by hand, shaped with wooden molds, then set to dry under the weight of the sky. You move in rhythms that are older than language. Scoop, mold, press, stack, again and again. Somewhere a temple gong echoes dully, a sound that doesn't awaken you because you were never truly asleep. To try not to think of how long the afternoon will feel. You walk home slowly. The streets are narrow, pressed between the outer walls of homes and shops. Children play with spinning tops. Women sweep doorsteps with palm brooms. Somewhere, someone is singing, a low chant carried lazily on the breeze. There are no clocks, only the slow turning of the sun, and the long shadows it casts across the growing city, and some thin beer, cloudy, thick, and sour. The kind of drink that leaves your mouth dry, but your stomach just full enough to continue. You eat a little more barley, chew on dried dates if you're lucky. Then, you lie down. Not because the day is done, but because your body leaves you no choice. You chew slowly, eyes still heavy, while your hands already ache with memory. No light but the faint flicker of a clay lamp. No dream but waking again tomorrow to the same rhythm. There's no breakfast as we know it. Maybe a bit of barley bread, stale from the day before, and then the work begins. You walk to the kill fields. The sun hasn't yet peaked, but the air is already warm, thick with the scent of damp earth and ash. Your fingers are cracked, the creases dark with clay. He carries a reed switch. Not always used, but always visible. You are not a slave, but the difference is often subtle. Your work is required, your quotas are fixed. Your rest is brief. You wear simple linen, dyed by the sun into the shades. Sand finds its way into your sandals. The heat does not simply rise. It wraps around you, a constant pressure. There is no shade unless you crouch beside the bricks you've laid. By mid-morning, your body is coated in dust. Sometimes the overseer watches from beneath a palm leaf awning. There you help restore walls that rise like stairways to heaven. The priests speak little. They move like they float, wrapped in white hands, perfumed with oils. You are not allowed inside. Do not ask why. Occasionally, you're summoned to a temple site. This is seen as an honor, though it rarely feels that way. At midday, there is pause. You sit under a sliver of shade, eating lentils with your fingers. By dusk, the air begins to cool, and your muscles begin to hum with the ache of repetition. Back home, you rinse your hands in a shallow basin, though the dust never truly leaves. There is no comfort beyond stillness. And yet, this is life, a rhythm as old as Babylon itself. Brick by brick, the city rises, and you are its hands. Now, let us shift our focus from the hands that built Babylon to the mind that shaped it. Hammurabi, his name, preserved on stone tablets and whispered through centuries, evokes images of order, judgment, and the strange weight of divine kingship. But who was this man, really? He was not born to rule an empire. Hammurabi came to power around 1792 BCE, inheriting a modest city-state from his father, a city on the banks of the Euphrates, where trade routes crossed and ambitions simmered. Babylon, at that time, was not the jewel of Mesopotamia. It was one among many, a place of merchants and priests, farmers and soldiers nestled in the dusty heart of what we now call Iraq. But Hammurabi was not content with inheritance. It was written in stone. He ruled for more than 40 years. Slowly, steadily, through careful alliances, surprise attacks, and shrewd diplomacy, he extended Babylon's reach. It was about preserving structure. Hammurabi saw society as a carefully layered tower, and his laws were the mortar. Cities that once stood beside Babylon as rivals, Larsa, Ishnana, Mari, were absorbed one by one. Infrastructure designed not only for function, but for legacy. He commissioned texts, prayers, hymns that named him protector of widows. Hammurabi's sons inherited a larger empire and a harder burden. The vast kingdom began to fray not long after his death. Rivals returned. Cities rebelled. And in time, the empire shrank. Imagine the flicker of torchlight across smooth, black basalt. Imagine the stillness of that moment. His words meant to control thousands are etched permanently into the world. And orphans, shepherd of the people, beloved of the gods, and foresight turned Babylon into a beacon. Not of justice, perhaps, but of permanence. The laws were not just proclamations. They were poetry of control. They detailed trade, marriage, theft, injury, debt, and punishment. Every aspect of life formalized. But because he captured the idea that law could shape society, that rules carved into stone could outlast their maker. But it is more than revenge. It is hierarchy. Because the punishments change depending on status. The same act might require a fine if committed against a noble, but only compensation if done to a commoner. Some through war, some through marriage, some through the simple exhaustion of resistance. And yet his greatest legacy was not military. The Code of Hammurabi, a towering basalt stele, carved with over 280 laws. Written in cuneiform script, topped with an image of Hammurabi himself receiving authority from the god Shamash. If a builder constructs a house for a man, and the house collapses and causes the death of the owner, the builder shall be put to death. If a man blinds the eye of another, his eye shall be blinded. If a son strikes his father, his hands shall be cut off. You may have heard this called the eye for an eye code. There was logic to it, a kind of order in the chaos. But it was not fairness in the way we might think of it today. He also built temples, canals, walls, but power ages differently than people. In his final years, Babylon faced drought, unrest, and slow decay, but his name endured. Not because he was kind, not because he was just in the way we might wish. Imagine him standing in a silent hall, watching as scribes press wedges into clay, line after line. In Hammurabi's mind, perhaps, it was not fear that maintained order, but memory. The memory of punishment. The memory of roles. The memory of a man who through force and in that permanence, even now, his name sleeps, waiting to be read, waiting to be remembered. We now drift from rulers and laws to something older still, something silent, the ziggurat. A word that sounds almost like a whisper, and perhaps that's fitting. These ancient structures were built not to echo with noise, but to connect earth with the quiet realm of the divine. You may picture it as a pyramid, but a ziggurat is different. It does not rise in smooth slopes, but in tiers. Like a staircase to the sky, each level smaller than the one below. They were made of mud brick and bitumen, with baked brick facings to hold their shape against time and heat. But even more than architecture, they were symbols. Babylon's great ziggurat was called Enki, the house of the foundation of heaven and earth. It stood beside the great temple of Marduk, the city's patron god. Together, they formed the heart of spiritual life in Babylon. Imagine walking through the streets of ancient Babylon, the sun high and golden, and seeing this immense structure in the distance, its edges crisp, its walls whitewashed and shimmering, its summit veiled in mist or smoke. But unlike other buildings, the ziggurat was not for the people. The temple beside it was named Isagila, the house that raises its head. Together, they formed a kind of axis mundi, spiritual center of the world. There were no public ceremonies inside, no open halls or gathering spaces. You might hear faint chants on the wind, but the rituals themselves. Bricks melted in rain. Sand crept in where the plaster flaked, the stars slowly dimming above as a priest climbs the stairs, carrying an offering to a god who never speaks. Others suggest that a sacred bed and table were placed there, part of a ritual where a priestess or the king reenacted the divine union of heaven and earth. They remained hidden. Its heights were reserved for priests, and perhaps the king himself, who climbed it not for spectacle, but for sacred ritual. In the ruins of Babylon itself, visitors can walk among walls that once framed this sacred tower. The air still feels heavy there, not from heat alone, but from the weight of what was once believed you would not be allowed near. You might glimpse robed figures ascending its stairways, carrying incense or small offerings. They've found traces of altars, burn marks from sacred fires, even stone channels for libations. But the purpose of the upper chambers, especially the summit shrine, is still debated. Even today, much remains unknown. Archaeologists have uncovered foundations, stairways, and ceremonial courtyards. Some believe the top was left empty, a resting place for the gods themselves during their visits to Earth. It's also been suggested that the ziggurat was a kind of cosmic ladder, a place where messages could rise to the heavens, divine will could descend. And yet, even in their prime, these structures were slowly fading, bitumen cracked in the sun. Today, the ziggurat exists mostly as ruin, a footprint of greatness, an outline in the dust. But fragments remain. Museums, you can see bricks stamped with the names of kings, tiny wedges pressed by ancient hands. Imagine the hush of a pre-dawn ritual. It's a soft sweep of a robe against brick, the faint trace of cedar oil in the air. The secrets of the ziggurat may never be fully known, and perhaps that is how it was meant to be. Some knowledge in ancient Babylon was not meant to be shared. It was meant to be felt, revered, and left untouched, like the sky itself. From the soaring steps of the ziggurat, we now descend, not into the common alleys, but into the shaded courtyards and perfumed chambers of Babylon's elite. Here, the rhythm of life beats differently. Imagine yourself walking through the inner courtyard of a nobleman's house. The walls rise high, finished with smooth plaster and inlaid with painted tiles. His household is vast. Servants move silently across the tiled floor. Jewelry is modest, but meaningful. A carved seal on a cord around his neck, used to sign documents and mark identity. The seal may carry an image of a lion or a winged god, pressed into clay like a quiet signature of power. Scribes sit in the corner, copying texts or calculating rations on clay tablets. A poor harvest? A rebellion? A lost caravan? The stars are consulted first. Always. Daughters. They may marry into other elite families, or, in rare cases, join temple life. Literacy is a luxury. He ensures it is passed down like a family heirloom. He consults diviners before any major decision. Astrology is not entertainment here. It is law. A musician plucks at strings in the distance, soft and slow. A shift in favor at court, a new tax from the king. Failed prophecy. Any of these could collapse his house like a poorly baked brick. So, his speech is cautious. His allies are chosen carefully. Palm trees cast long shadows across stone benches. The air is cooler here, protected from the fierce sun outside. His name must be remembered, his seal preserved. Its household must outlast him. It carries the soft scent of date wine and imported incense. Lamps flicker in stone holders. The city beyond murmurs softly. The air smells faintly of cedar and oil. He listens, perhaps, to the rustle of palm leaves outside, or to the low voice of a servant reciting a hymn to Marduk. In the distance, drums from the temple echo through the darkness, a slow rhythm, pulsing like the breath of a sleeping god. In the early morning, he may host scribes or minor officials, discussing trade shipments, temple offerings, or the ever-shifting rules of city politics. His speech is deliberate. His authority is unspoken. It is known, not asserted. You are in the home of a high-ranking official, perhaps a priest, or a wealthy merchant tied to the palace. The wine is served sweet and diluted, poured from jugs cooled in the shade. Meals are quiet affairs, taken reclining on mats, with fingers cleaned in bowls of scented water. Conversation drifts slowly, touching on dreams, omens, and the subtle movements of powerful families. He wears a robe of fine linen, dyed and embroidered, though never ostentatious. His days are structured but serene. When guests arrive, they're welcomed with dates, pomegranates, salted fish, and bread baked in clay ovens. Religion infuses everything, even luxury. He makes daily offerings at the household shrine, a small alcove filled with miniature statues, tokens, and vessels. The stars are watched with precision. Clay tablets track the moon, the planets, the rising of certain constellations. His children are educated. If they are sons, they may train to become scribes or even priests. Though he walks with dignity, the elite man is not free of worry. Politics in Babylon are delicate, even deadly. He does not toil, not as the bricklayer does. But he carries burdens all the same, of expectation, reputation, legacy. His home falls into stillness, reclines in his chamber, the walls decorated with painted scenes, birds, rivers, holy symbols. The ceiling is low. Here in the heart of Babylon, wealth offers comfort, but never full peace. Because in Babylon, even the elite live under law, under stars, and under gods who do not answer. And now, our journey through ancient Babylon comes to a close. You've walked its dusty streets, felt the weight of sun and labor. You've stood in the presence of a king whose words were carved in stone, and drifted through silent temple stairways where gods were believed to descend. You've glimpsed both ends of life's scale, the coarse, calloused hands of bricklayers, and the soft, perfumed quiet of those who dined beneath painted ceilings. But in the end, Babylon was not built only on law or faith or stone. It was built on rhythm. Its temples hollow, ziggurats broken by time and rain. The slow, daily repetition of hands, voices, rituals, of waking early, of watching stars, of shaping mud and memory into something enduring. Even now, the city is quiet. Its bricks are scattered, but something of it remains. In a museum shelf, a single clay tablet. On it, the marks of a scribe's stylus, still crisp after 4,000 years. In the desert wind, whispers of rituals long forgotten. In the soft glow of a lamp beside you now, a flicker of the same light that once guided Babylonian nights. So as you rest, imagine the steady hum of ancient life beneath your breath, the slow drip of water in clay pots, to the rustle of linen robes against a worn brick floor, the low chants of priests echoing from temple walls. You are far from Babylon, but the rhythm remains, and tonight you've touched it. Sleep well, traveler of time, and may your dreams rise gently like the steps of a ziggurat. Toward the stars,